Hi everyone, my name is Lynn Colson. I'm here from averysowry.com, and I wanted to produce a video today to share with you some of the tips and techniques that I used in creating my card that I created specifically with the avid crafter in mind. This is the card, and you can see that on my post here today too. Um, I've created two other versions of this card. This one was the beginner stamper version and uses all the same colors and kind of the same layout, but this is all a single layout card with just Mary Ann stamped, and then I just trimmed those out with my paper snips. It's just a fun, bright card. The second one I created was this card, and it is more your casual crafter. The same basic layout. This is a single piece of paper. There's a black strip here, and then there's some die cutting, and then again I stamped the words, but this time I just trimmed them right up to the edge of the black. These are actually some retired enamel dots. You could use any kind. You could use red rhinestones. Those would work just as well. But today I wanted to show you kind of how all three of these cards work together. They're all using the same bright Peace and Joy stamp set, and then the coordinating dies that go with them. And so I wanted to kind of share and button up my series that I created here by showing you exactly how I did this ink spot to paper. It's not too difficult. And I also wanted to share how I tied this bow, and then some tips on how to cut out these, fussy cut these little images. So the first thing I'm going to share is, let's see, I'm going to do this first. I'll share how I do the direct to paper ink spot. I learned this on in one of our Stampin' Up! Conventions that we actually had last weekend, and it was online, which was awesome because we were able to see everything from our homes, so we were COVID safe. And then the videos are, for those that signed up, are still available for us to watch all the way up through January. So this was a pretty fun, I really enjoyed the format. So to do the direct to stamp spot to paper on this one, I just simply took my ink spot. There's a set of classic ink spots that have, I think there's 10 of them. And all three of these colors, Real Red, Bermuda Bay, and Daffodil Delight, are included in that. This is not one of those. This is my own created Real Red because I didn't have a Real Red one. But you just take your stamp spot and then run it right across there just like that. And then the next one was, and it doesn't matter what order you want to put them in, Bermuda Bay, and if you want to go over it again, you can certainly do that. And then the last one is Daffodil Delight. And you just rub that right across there. Get your rainbow. You can do this with any colors that you like. The Stampin' Spots work nicely because they are 1 inch by 1 inch. And so you get just the right size, I guess, of stripe there. Now for this particular card, I actually cut the strips first. These are 1 inch by 5 1/4, and then I ran the ink over the top of those. I could do the same thing here and then just cut these apart. Whatever works easiest for you. So that's how I did that. A very easy beginner stamper technique that you could use. The next thing I want to share is how I tied this bow. This is a technique that I actually learned from Julie DiMatteo at the Paper Pixie. She's a fellow demonstrator and a friend. And she shared this on a video, I don't know how long ago, quite a while. And I have since shared it with my stamping class, and they all love it. They use bows much more frequently now because they know how to do this. So you're, excuse me, basically going to take your ribbon, and I'm just using this one because I think it shows up well on the camera. You're going to take your ribbon and a stamping block. Now, my stampers have also in the past used phones or ink pads. So you could use an ink pad and tie it around. It doesn't really matter what you tie it around. It's just kind of the act of tying it around and what you do with it afterwards. So I always do left over right. This is just the way I tie my bows, so that you end up and then pull it tight across like that. So you've got basically 4 sides, right? And then I put my finger here and I create my bottom loop with my right hand, and then take my left hand and wrap it around. It's just like tying a regular bow. Pull it through. Obviously, it looks a little messy right now, but that's okay. We can fix that up. You're just gonna pull these until you get the bows about where you want them. And this is not my best bow, I'll admit that. But you get the idea, right? Sometimes I think it might be easier with other kinds of ribbon, but so I got it pretty much where I want it. Now I'm going to take my ribbon scissors. These are the scissors I only use for fabric, and you're going to trim your tails. So Julie's tip was to take take your strings, and then with your scissors straight, cut up right towards the edge of that end of that bow. That makes the perfect end. That one's a little bit long, and it gives you a nice little angle. Now, here's the biggest trick. So you've got this bow. I want this bow to kind of go like this on the side. So I'm going to cut it right there. Now this bow can be placed anywhere and tucked underneath the pieces and glued on. Fabulous. This is so much easier than trying to tie it around here. You also use a little bit less ribbon because you're not wasting it behind there. And it's easier to tie it around something like this that you can see and tie tightly. If you really need to, you can always put a little glue dot right here when you're tying it, so it kind of holds it together, and then remove that glue dot, or have that glue dot be right there when you're putting it on your project. So a really fun, really easy technique. You wouldn't think that this would wrap all the way around because it's just not that wide, but it does. And it'll work on any, pretty much any standard size card, whether you want to go this way or this way. And there you go. Okay. And then the last thing I wanted to share today was just a couple of tricks on fussy cutting. Again, you can use your Stampin' Spots for this. Just grab my regular ink pads, and I'm going to stamp in Bermuda Bay. And then I'm going to stamp the berries in Real Red. And I want them kind of close to that, but not necessarily overlapping, like that. Close my ink pad so I don't get my arms in it. And then the trick with fussy cutting, and this is a good trick to know if you're a beginner stamper, is that you want to start and then you want to turn your paper, not your scissors. So the paper is what's moving around. I'm actually holding my scissors fairly consistent. You can start if it gets in the way. This is not a hard image necessarily to cut out. But like I said, you want to turn your paper, don't turn your scissors. You get a much smoother cut that way. And you're not doing this with your cutting arm. This also works whether you're right-handed or left-handed. Now, I didn't do a very fabulous job on that because I'm on camera, but you get the idea. And you can always go through and kind of snip off any little extras. You can do it tightly, or you can give a little white space on here like I did. So that's how I did these images here. This is nice to know if you are cutting out any kind of patterned designer series paper or any images, especially if you don't have a die cutting machine like our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, which if you're going to be a paper crafter, I would highly recommend that you invest in a stamping die cutting machine, and I would prefer that you buy one of ours because I do think that they're better for lots of reasons. I have another video out on YouTube that you can check that out. So those are my tips on how to make the stripes, how to make the bow, and how to do a little fussy cutting. Thank you very much for joining me today, and I hope you have a great holiday. Bye-bye.